I don't know what time it is or how long we've been talking or anything, but I thought maybe it'd be a good time to maybe open it up for questions, because I feel like this might be a good time to do that. So, does anybody want to talk about anything uncomfortable?
Well, I love hearing some of the stories about the work. I mean, I've seen a lot of your work, but not spoken directly about individual pieces. And I realize you have even more of a poetic nature than I knew about.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
When looking through some of this work too, I have a desire to hear more about the scale and materials of the work. So if you felt like going through some of those things and
Let's look at another piece.
yeah.
Okay, well, this is cow. That's the name of this one. It's an udder. It's not your typical milk cow udder. Your typical dairy cow has a much more streamlined shape, which works well with milking machines. This is a type of cow that's not necessarily a milk cow, but nevertheless, it is modeled on an actual cow udder.
And what are the proportions of this piece?
Oh, it's about 8 inches tall. It's not really huge, but it's almost the size of, I guess, a small cow udder. But the material is jet, which is a type of coal. And so here again, I was referencing the earth, and taking coal out of the earth is like literally milking the earth for her valuable material. So that's kind of what I was aiming for there. This is actually carved out of a giraffe bone. Oh,
This is a new piece, by the way. So
Yeah.
is the one with the eyeballs.
This is about 30 inches tall. And, I'm sorry?
30.
About 30 inches tall, yeah.
So it's a giraffe carved out of a giraffe bone.
All right, what else are you going to carve out of a giraffe bone? But the title of it is Continental Drift. And, you know, you could say either we're exploiting Africa or we're loving it to death. Because, you know, we need her products. We want her products. African diamonds, those are the spots on the giraffe. And then it has a piece of iron wire in its mouth because that's another material that comes from Africa. So just tying the materials to their source, and the materials have a meaning, and they have an awareness of where they came from. That's sort of how I'm thinking about it. So, Sally, you had something?
Well, I sort of had a question about, at some point along the way, you made a very brave decision to sort of take things that were sort of not considered serious in art, like which are all really a lot feminine materials and jewelry, vernacular, and things like that. And I just wonder, at what point did that start happening for you, and how did that feel? How scary was that? Because it would have been, I imagine, you would think you wouldn't be taken seriously.
Yeah, it's really scary.
Yeah.
It is, and I'm not sure. I think all of it was, even when I was doing more traditional materials like oil pastels and paintings and things, the subject matter was sort of extreme, and yeah, there's this fear that you just look like a crazy person. And well, maybe that's what I am. I don't know. But if you don't try to be really honest and direct, then what good is it? You know, I feel like I soft pedal it a little bit. It could be worse, but you know, it does get your attention, and that's definitely what I'm going for. So, extremism, bring it on. Have to do something. Otherwise, it's just wallpaper.
They're all narrative pieces. How much do the forms themselves matter?
The forms themselves, Yes, the form is tied to the narrative.
That's all it's-
Right. I mean, it starts with the form usually. I'm usually drawn to some visual concept, and the narrative is just attached to it. It just is naturally there because I'm trying to look for things that are really embedded in our psyches, and so it's just all one and the same thing.
Some of these pieces, as you describe them, they're starting to sound like spells because there's an intention and a symbolism. And I'm wondering if you are imbuing these objects with like a mystical, magical quality.
I'm not consciously trying to make them magical or mystical. My goal is to reference something that affects you. That's my goal in a nutshell. I just want to reach out and touch you with this image. So if it turns out to be magical, that's just a byproduct.
You know, I think it's interesting too, when we had the show up, there is a femininity, but there's also a current of masculinity. And so I think it was confusing to some people because they wouldn't have expected a woman to carve stone or to carve bones or to work with bones necessarily. There's a real paradox to me in some of this, in the making and in the mysticism, if you will.
Yeah, I just am interested in the materials, and I don't really think about them masculine versus feminine. I don't really think about that. It's just that with this particular body of work, I did think in terms of the earth as female, and that's where I was going with that. But most of the time, I don't think, oh, I'm going to make this because it looks like a man did it or anything like that. That's not my intention. I just really wanted to start using more precious materials, and that goes back to the transition from the paper mache and the more humble materials I was using for several years. And this is kind of a negative thing, but this is exactly what happened. There were two different things that caused me to move away from the paper mache. And the first one was that I found out that there was a West Coast artist who was doing almost exactly the same thing, and she was already showing in all the regional museums. Her name is Jean Lowe, and her work was so similar to mine. It was very disheartening to discover that, you know, but it's like it's the Zeitgeist, it's what's in the air, and it just happens. There's just synchronicity that you can't escape it. It just happens. Yeah. So I also had this opportunity to visit with Louis Kamnitzer when he was a curator with the Drawing Center. He came through Texas, and I got to have an appointment with him when he was in Austin. And I showed him the faux porcelains, and I explained what I was doing, and I thought, paper mache, this is great for the Drawing Center, you know. And he was just like, nope, nope, nope. If this was real porcelain, I would buy it. And I was so disheartened because I thought, gee, no, that's not the point. That's not the point at all.
Did you say, well, I wouldn't let you have it?
I should have said that. But, you know, those were like two major blows to the body of work. And so I thought, well, I'll just think about trying to do something even cheesier. I'll start carving stone. So I'm not sure I've really balanced out the cheesy aspect of it. I'm not sure I've really dealt with that very well. If you're going to carve stone, yeah, that's just going to be cheesy. It's just somebody's going to automatically think, well, you have no idea. You don't know anything about the history of modern art if you're carving stone. So.
That's awesome.
I promise I did not stop with surrealism. I really did. I came of age painting Abex. So.
Sally, you had a question?
Yeah, I was going to just say, for me at least, one of the most striking things about your work is that you are creating these objects with such craft that are very precious and delicate, but they have this undercurrent of darkness to them. But you're still treating it with like the light as in some ways, and so there's this duality going on. Where does that mixture come from for you, like the kind of darkness?
Well, yeah, my ideas are very dark, and my vision is extremely dark, and I try to sort of soften that with beauty and delicacy and just pretty, just real pretty. You just really want to look at it, you really want to touch it, and then you go,
That's a dead animal.
So yeah, it's a conscious effort. It really is. I mean, in terms of trying to, I don't want it to be repulsive. I don't want it to be, I want you to understand that you can embrace the dark side. Go ahead.
It's a balance.
Yeah, it's a balance.
Anyone else?
Embrace the dark side. It's a good place.
Yeah, I like that. Especially on this evening. I don't know, I keep thinking we're going to have a tornado or something.
Please don't say that.
Sorry.
Well, if no one has any more questions, we can stop. This has been really great.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you for having us.